we have the kickers in the NFL, which could be described for the fantasy world as kind of a silent killer because you could go through matchups like quarterback, that's pretty even. Running backs were kind of roughly the same. What went wrong this week? Why did I lose by like 15 points? And then you're like, what the hell? His kicker had 20 points and how many field goals on this team I wasn't even looking at because they only got 18 points because their kicker kicked 6 field goals. And then my guy had a couple extra points because Patrick Mahomes does not settle for field goals, which is probably their motto. But overall, it's like that could be really a silent kicker. And I feel like one thing to look for is their team going to be converting touchdowns every time? Well, Justin Tucker, we know he's the number one kicker in the league. We know the Ravens are going to have trouble this year, probably scoring touchdowns for the lack of talent at running back and wide receiver. And then you go through the rest of the list and you're kind of like, all right, who are the guys that are going to be on teams that are going to struggle to score that can move the ball? And then who are the guys that are mostly going to be getting you extra points? So I feel like that's kind of a good intro to the kicker position, but I feel like a lot of people ignore it, but it can be a silent killer.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember last year I lost because Nick Folk got 25
Yeah.
for the Patriots because he kicked 6 field goals.
Yeah.
Like, it is a silent killer, and I think you executed it well with, like, what you should really look for in a kicker is not the best kicker on the best team because, like, Justin Tucker's going to be great. Don't get me wrong. He's
Yeah.
going to kick fucking 70-yard field goals. He's a monster. But, like, the kickers that are the most efficient are, like, a couple of years ago, Matt Gay was really good for the Rams because you had Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp and then, like, a pretty weak receiver core outside of him.
Yeah.
So you had, an offense that was starting to get its rhythm, didn't really necessarily execute in the red zone. So you settle for field goals. All right, that's 3 points for Matt Gay. That's 4 points for Matt Gay. That's 5. You get the idea. Most of the time, you get a kicker that's on like a middle of the pack team with a decent offense, but just can't execute in the red zone. You got yourself a great kicker.
Yeah. And then, yeah, this is something it's like that's really what you need to research. Like we could go through tiers like this kicker's skilled or not, but we're just going to shout out a few guys who we think are on teams who aren't going to have great offenses, aren't going to struggle in the red zone. Give you a few names just to think about. And one name that comes to mind for me is Daniel Carlson.
Hmm.
Raiders, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Henry Renfro is still there. Got Jacoby Myers. I think they'll be able to at least move the ball. But I think with Jimmy Garoppolo, you do have some limitations in the red zone there. Pretty good kicker. I think that's a guy who you could see get a lot of field goals and some long field goals.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. I think he was the number one kicker last year, but I could be wrong. Another guy like that, kind of a similar, relatively similar offense with not the greatest receivers. Running backs are solid. Tight ends are solid. Mac Jones is okay. Nick Folk.
Yeah.
Right now he's ranked as 11th best kicker, which I think is kind of crazy because he might kick 4 or 5 field goals a game any given week.
Yeah.
Their offense last year really struggled in the red zone, and I just don't know. I mean, Bill O'Brien will make it better, but I definitely think that Nick Folk, for one thing, he's got range. He can kick a 55-yarder if he needs to, but also with an offense like that, I feel like he's going to thrive.
Yeah, I definitely think he'll be able to thrive in an offense like that. And then, especially the Patriots, like they can't move the ball. They're going to be kicking a lot of field goals. Nothing new there. Another player on a team who could struggle to perform in the red zone just because they have a rookie quarterback and he's a really talented kicker. Always got to shout out Young Hoku, the legend himself.
King.
First Asian NFL player. Shout out to him. One of the best kickers in the league from here to date. Then we have him on Atlanta. Desmond Ridder, we have a lot of talent there, but we just don't know if the quarterback's going to be able to close the deal, make the big plays when we need to. A lot of people are saying Desmond Ridder is not good, and we're just waiting for Caleb Williams or another great quarterback to come out of the draft. So, Young Hoku, got to be shouted out here.
Yeah, and then one guy I want to shout out here. I'll give it a similar shout out again, Matt Gay. Love his name, just funny. The Colts, you have Anthony Richardson, could be a relatively clunky offense. That being said, they do have Michael Pittman, who's a solid receiver. You
Yes.
have Jonathan Taylor,
Mhm.
and AR-15 is more than capable of taking it off and running with it as well. And Matt Gay territory is like 60-yard field goal. He can
Yeah.
do it. So give him credit. He'll be good. He'll be in good territory.
Yeah, I think he'll be in good territory there. And then I think my last one I'm gonna go with is gonna be Chris Boswell. I think he's someone where the Steelers offense I think will be a lot better than it was last year, but I think their defense definitely creates a lot of possessions. Don't think Kenny Pickett will be able to finish all of them. Have had some struggles in the red zone so far. Reports coming out of training camp, they kind of failed a few times in the red zone. We don't know if that's because the Steelers are incredible on defense and their offense is still good, or their offense could just struggle in the red zone this year. So that's why I think Chris Boswell, another great choice at kicker.
Yeah, and then one to avoid like the plague. Graham Gano for the Giants. The Giants suck, and Daniel Jones sucks, and they have no weapons, and they're going to have a hard time moving the ball because everyone knows what they're going to do. So I would avoid Graham Gano because he's probably going to disappoint you.
Yeah. I would avoid Harrison Butker because he's on the Chiefs. I think they're going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns here. I know you get points for extra points, but I just don't see him kicking a lot of field goals. So throwing out Harrison Butker to avoid there. Also, going to say the same thing for Jason Sanders for Miami. I think Miami's basically going to be touchdown or bust this year, especially with Mike McDaniels at head coach. Thinks he's a guy who's going to go for it a lot. And then once Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle get free in an open field, like it's over.
The only team I can say that it's not the case with, you talk about two powerful offenses. This offense is super powerful, but their kicker is just a monster. Evan McPherson. I love
Yes.
him. He's my favorite kicker in the entire NFL. They call him Evan McFearless. I mean, you remember how he was in that Super Bowl run? There's a different. He is the exception when it comes to those teams. I mean, and then obviously Justin Tucker too, but Evan McPherson, again, a guy who can kick it from 60 yards. And then the Bengals, like especially during the early parts of the season, can struggle in the red zone. They got the talent to obviously overcome that. So down the stretch, maybe consider waiver wiring a kicker, but Evan McPherson, monster.
Yeah, Evan McPherson, shout out to you. You're a monster. Got it done when Joey B needed you versus the Titans. I got it done when he needed you versus the Chiefs in that conference championship. All the games versus the Chiefs were decided by 3 points, including the last game, I believe. So he's definitely someone who's come up big in the past. So that's pretty much our kicker overview. It's a position that can kill you if you don't expect it. It's also a position that a lot of people don't think about, but make sure you think about your kicker. Why are you drafting them? Because a lot of people don't, and it could help you a lot. And